Good morning from Mission Control Houston again, and welcome to round 2 of our coverage today of the release of HTV-5 from the International Space Station. Looking inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room right now, the Flight Director on console, Royce Renfrew, going around the room and to control centers around the globe, getting a go, no-go for the release once more of HTV-5. Flight controllers and the Japanese HTV-5 Flight Control Room standing by, everything continuing to get back on track for the release of this unmanned cargo vehicle. If you're joining us for the first time today, the release was originally scheduled to take place at 10:20 a.m. Central Time, 11:20 a.m. Eastern. However, in the final stage, right before release, the space station's robotic arm, Canadarm2, had what's called a safing event, basically put safing controls in place after experiencing a braking error. So the release ultimately delayed while teams, the robotics controllers here in Houston, tried to work through the issues and get everything back into a good configuration for the release of the vehicle. The robotics controllers have continued to work over the last hour or so, and everything looking to be back on track for another attempt. Right now, the lighting window for HTV just beginning to open up. The next release window, which will be a 4-minute window, opening up at 11:52 a.m. Central Time, closing at 11:56. Basically, the teams assigning these 4-minute windows where everything, both with the station and HTV and the robotic arm, will all be in place for a 4-minute period to release the vehicle. If they are unable to meet that 4-minute window, they go back to a standard configuration, and then we'll troubleshoot any issues to try and figure out what happened. The current lighting window right now is going to be open until 12:34 p.m. Central. So if they are unable to release the vehicle again in just about 14 and a half minutes from now, they'll have a number of chances continuing throughout this lighting window. Their last release window will take place at 12:30, with the final release for this pass coming at 12:34 p.m. So again, the next attempt coming just 14 minutes from now to release this unmanned cargo craft from the space station's robotic arm. Both Japanese astronaut Kimiya Yui and NASA astronaut Kjell Lindgren standing by inside of the station's cupola, going through their final checkouts now. And the current space station flight director here in Houston, Royce Renfrew, getting a go from all of the teams for this next attempt. Again, just under 13 and a half minutes from now. The station again crossing over the northern Pacific Ocean as it was during the last orbit attempt, just crossing over the terminator line, that line on the Earth's surface between night and day. Passing into an orbital sunrise, as you can see the Earth's surface below lighting up. Just under 13 minutes now away from that targeted release point. Even with this delay, the deorbit burns and the eventual deorbit of the vehicle would still remain on track for tomorrow morning, and with the ultimate deorbit in the afternoon. Again, once HTV is released, it'll drift for a couple of minutes, the thrusters activating 1 minute after release, then a number of departure burns taking place, to be exact, and then a initial descent burn taking place about 15 to 20 minutes after the release. And then tomorrow morning, around 9 a.m. Central Time, the first deorbit maneuver would take place, 3 in total, sending the vehicle down through its destructive re-entry through the Earth's atmosphere. For now, though, release will be the next step to send HTV-5 off to the end of its mission, currently 12 minutes away and counting. It's now under 10.5 minutes away from the targeted open of that next release window. Again, that'll be a 4-minute window when the station and the vehicle and the robotic arm are all in the right configuration, have the right parameters to enable the release of the unmanned cargo craft. This is the second attempt today to release HTV-5 and send it on its way. The unmanned vehicle delivered almost 5 tons of hardware and supplies to the International Space Station, arriving back on August 24th, just 5 days after its launch from the Tanegashima Space Center in Japan. At this point, the vehicle loaded up with trash and other disposable items marked for destruction along with the vehicle once it deorbits tomorrow morning, following a successful release today. And the first release attempt was a little over an hour ago at 10:20 a.m. Central Time. Since then, the robotics flight controller here in Houston working with his team to reconfigure the arm and get us back into this current good configuration. Hopefully getting a clean release in just about 9 minutes from now. Continuing to stand by as the station and HTV pass over a cloud cover Pacific Ocean, currently at an altitude of about 254 statute miles over the Earth's surface. Just under 7.5 minutes away from the opening of that release window. Again, it's a 4-minute window when everything is in the right state to allow for the release of this unmanned cargo craft. And again, standing by at the controls inside the station's cupola at the robotic workstation this morning, Japanese astronaut Kamiya Yui, who oversaw the grapple of the vehicle when it arrived just 5 weeks ago. He's joined by NASA astronaut Kjell Lindgren, who's helping to monitor all of the data from the vehicle itself and from the space station's robotic arm, Canadarm2. Now 5 minutes and counting. So a quick handover with our communication satellites. 2 minutes and 20 seconds away from the opening of this release window for HTV-5. Teams out at the HTV flight control room standing by, monitoring the vehicle as they have done since its launch back on August 19th from Tanegashima out in Japan. Again, following a successful release today, the vehicle will ultimately deorbit tomorrow afternoon at around 3:30 p.m. Central Time, burning up over the Pacific Ocean. HTV and the station themselves right now just passing over the southern Pacific. Should be in that region following an on-time release, just 1 minute 30 seconds away from the opening of the window. And now less than a minute. "30 seconds and counting to window open for the second release attempt of HTV-5 departing the International Space Station." And the window is now open. Standing by. Confirm the snares on the arm are open. The vehicle released beginning to move away at 11:53 a.m. Central. And there it is, it's off after 5 weeks. Docked to the International Space Station, HTV-5 released from the robotic arm Canadarm2 at 11:53 a.m. Central Time, while both the station and the HTV vehicle were flying about 256 statute miles over the southern Pacific. So again, HTV released about 1 minute after the departure. The thrusters will activate. Then at about 11:58 or so, the first departure maneuver should take place. It'll be the first of two, the next one coming just 10 minutes after, to begin moving HTV-5 away from the International Space Station, setting it up for the first descent maneuver, which will take place to begin moving HTV down towards the Earth, setting that up again for that destructive re-entry tomorrow afternoon. So getting confirmation the thrusters have been activated on HTV-5. The next 3 minutes or so, the first departure maneuver should take place. HTV firing its thrusters to begin moving away from the International Space Station. For now, though, both vehicles drifting alongside each other. Again, that release coming at 11:53 a.m. Central Time, 12:53 a.m. Eastern Time, while both the station and HTV were flying over the South Pacific. Visiting vehicle officer here in Houston reporting good numbers, good attitude for the vehicle as it slowly drifts away.
Timer has been started.
We copy that. Thank you.
And we're taking the arm to brakes on.
We copy and concur.
This one more view from the grapple end of the space station's robotic arm, just released HTV a few minutes ago. Kamiya Yui and Chell Lindgren inside the cupola, now breaking the arm and putting it back into a safe config.
And for time hack purposes, our PET is at 2:30 now.
and Houston on 2 for HTV, safety net enabled.
Copy.
So again, at this point, HTV continuing to drift. The thrusters are activated. Should start seeing it begin to move away from the station with that first departure maneuver burn happening in the next minute or so. That burn should be coming in just under 30 seconds from now. And HTV-5 is going to be doing 2 burns known as initial departure maneuvers. Just the first one being a short 2-second firing of the thrusters, the second a longer 12-second firing, just to move HTV-5 away from the station, begin widening the gap. It'll begin its first descent maneuver burn, which will be a much longer 69-second burn, just about 12 minutes after that second departure maneuver, so around 12:20 or so.
Per block 2 in 1.602.
Good readback.
So that first maneuver just completed. Again, a very short 2-second firing of the thrusters, beginning to give the HTV-5 a little bit more push, start getting away from the International Space Station. That burn only changing its departure rate by about 0.04 meters per second. So again, a very short, very soft burn to begin widening the gap between the unmanned cargo craft and the station. In about 10 more minutes, it's going to conduct a second departure maneuver lasting about 12 seconds. That'll increase its rate of departure by about 0.2 meters per second. But for now, HTV-5 continuing to slowly float away from the orbiting laboratory, wrapping up 5 weeks attached. The vehicle actually on its 40th day in space since launching back in August from the Tanegashima Space Center. The team here in Houston continuing to get good readings on the attitude and control of HTV as it slowly drifts away. Again, just released about 8 minutes ago at 11:53 a.m. Central Time, 12:53 p.m. Eastern. Wrapping up a 5-week attached mission to the International Space Station. Everything continuing to look great with HTV-5's slow departure from the International Space Station, just a few minutes away now from that second departure maneuver. And the first one coming successfully at about 11:59 a.m. Central, executing a quick 2-second burn of the thrusters to begin widening that gap between the vehicle and the International Space Station. The next one should be coming up within the next 5 minutes or so. It'll be a bit longer, 12 seconds long, but we'll again continue to send HTV-5 on its way away from the International Space Station, setting the vehicle up for the re-entry through the Earth's atmosphere tomorrow. That deorbit scheduled to occur around 3:30 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday, following 3 deorbit maneuvers, basically long firings of the thrusters to continue to lower the vehicle's altitude until it enters through the Earth's atmosphere for destructive re-entry. The vehicle and all of the trash and other items loaded on board ultimately burning up over the Pacific Ocean. So continuing to follow along as HTV-5 departs slowly right now, but another burn coming to speed it up a little bit within the next 4 minutes or so.
Station Houston on 2 for HTV. IDM-2 maneuver is loaded. Please monitor per step 4 in 1.602.
Copy, we're in block 4 of 1.602.
Good feedback, thanks.
And getting reports from the visiting vehicle officer, the second departure maneuver burn just completed at 12:09 p.m. Central Time, 1:09 p.m. Eastern. So HTV now departing a little bit quicker away from the International Space Station. One more burn within the next 12 to 15 minutes from now will be its first descent maneuver. But everything following that release at 11:53 a.m. Central Time continuing to go smoothly for the vehicle as it departs and wraps up a 5-week stay at the International Space Station, originally delivering almost 5 tons of supplies, now packed with trash and other items marked for disposal, on its way away from the space station, set to deorbit and burn up over the Pacific tomorrow afternoon.
Station Houston on 2 for HTV. IDM2 maneuver is complete. Please verify per step 5 in 1.602. 24-hour safe trajectory is confirmed.
Okay, copy. And per Block 5, we can verify that we are on relative departure, DSM-1, and Vigo is no longer visible.
We copy. Thank you. Station Houston on 2 for HTV. Abort type is set to passive. Please verify per step 6 in 1.602.
In Koichi, we can verify per step 6 that the abort type is passive.
So HTV-5 continuing to drift away from the space station. Both of the initial departure maneuvers completed successfully. Everything being done by the book following that release at 11:53 a.m. Central Time, 12:53 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, HTV was initially unberthed earlier this morning, several hours ago, at 6:12 a.m. Central from the Earth-facing side of Harmony, where it was attached for just about 5 weeks. The vehicle delivered almost 5 tons of supplies to the station and now is on its way towards a destructive re-entry packed up with trash and other disposable items. That re-entry scheduled to take place tomorrow afternoon at around 3:30 p.m. Central Time. But for now, that's going to wrap up our coverage this morning of a successful release on the second attempt of HTV-5, wrapping up again a 5-week mission to the International Space Station, and now on its way towards that fiery re-entry. So with that, we'll go ahead and close today's coverage of the end of this mission. Be sure to join us again tomorrow for our Space Station Live and throughout the week for a regular look at life on board the International Space Station every day at 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern. For now, though, we will go ahead and sign off. This is Mission Control Houston.